Welcome back to the channel, Book Dragons. I'm really glad you're here today. Every once in a while, I run across a book title just in some random space that is very unique, dare we say weird. So I thought I'd do a video about some of those book titles today. And some of these titles you will recognize, you will know these titles. Others you have probably never heard of before. I know I hadn't heard of some of these before. So I just thought I'd throw them out there and see what you guys think of some of these titles. Some of them are kind of catchy even though they're strange, and some of them are just flat out odd. And that's okay. There's books out there and book titles that appeal to lots of different people. So we're going to go over some of these today. And eyes. As you can see, I have my eyes on here. Now, the first one I want to do is an honorable mention, though. And that is because this particular author has so many books that they have written. And it's probably some of the weirdest stuff I have ever seen. And that is Chuck Tingle. And I have no doubt that is a pen name, I think. Anyway, I could be wrong, but it seems like a pen name. And this author just writes, I don't know, like there's fantasy lizard romances and action adventure with dinosaurs and romance. And some of the titles make it sound like the romances are with the dinosaurs. It's just weird stuff, okay? And I may be completely misrepresenting this author because I've never read any of their works. I know people who have, and have clued me into some of the things in the books. But yeah, so if you've ever run across anything by Chuck Tingle, I may put a couple of examples up here on the screen. And if that's your sort of thing, that's great. That's great. And I'm sure they would fit into a category for readathons like Garbogust, which a lot of people are doing Garbogust and things like that. So there is space for some of these types of books. And so Chuck Tingle is just one example of that. That's why I wanted to make it an honorable mention, because Chuck Tingle has a plethora of books out there, probably appealing to many diverse tastes. So let's move on to my actual list. And the first one of these is Haggis Hunters by Ray Salvatore. Now, Ray Salvatore is well known in the fantasy community, especially for his Drizzt books in the Forgotten Realms series. And he's well loved in the community. So when I saw this title, I'm like, Haggis. That is, if I'm not mistaken, it's kind of like, it's almost like a mincemeat pie containing like sheep liver and hearts and things like that. And I'm going, that's an interesting name for a book. But it definitely piques your interest, right? It makes you want to read the book and find out, okay, why is this called Haggis Hunters? So I just thought I'd lead with that one because that was just a very odd title to me. So the next one on here is, you have to forgive me, Touch Not the Cat by Mary Stewart. And I just picture a cat, you know, someone trying to reach out and pet a cat, and the cat hisses and is like, don't touch me. Like, that's just the picture I get. I don't know why, but Touch Not the Cat by Mary Stewart. And Mary Stewart is fairly well known for her Arthurian saga. The first book is The Crystal Cave. I recently read that not long ago. It was a reread for me, and I was not impressed. But who knows? I'm sure she's got other books that are maybe better, or this one definitely sounds interesting. So if a book like Touch Not the Cat appeals to you, maybe you should check it out. The next one on here is a very, very well-known book by Philip K. Dick. And that is Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? This is the book that inspired the movie Blade Runner 2049, etc. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with that movie, or maybe even the book. Maybe you've read the book. I've read the book. It's one of my absolute favorites. But it's a very weird title. And maybe that's why when they made the movie, they're like, okay, we're not going to call it that. We're going to call it something different. So there is a reason the book is titled, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And I'm not going to say anything because it would spoil certain parts of the book. But I highly recommend that book. It is an excellent read. But it's an odd title, for sure. The next one on my list is another Philip K. Dick book, and that is We Can Remember It For You, Wholesale. He's got some very unique titles. I'll give him that. And that's another strange one, but that is the book that inspired the movie Total Recall. The main character goes to this company called Recall and, signs up for their service and everything like that, and everything breaks loose from there. It's a wild story. Now, I have not read the book. I do plan to read this book eventually because I'm very curious. I enjoyed both of the Total Recall movies, actually, even though the one with Schwarzenegger was probably closest to the story of the book. I enjoyed both of them. So, but I have not read the book yet. But it's a very different title. It's a very weird title. And just let me say right off the bat, when I say weird, I'm not saying it's negative because it's weird. I'm just saying it's weird. And I'm the first person to say that normal is highly overrated. I like weird stuff. So just throwing that out there. The next one on this list is Melancholy Elephants by Spider Robinson. I've never heard of the author. I've never heard of this book before until I ran across it one day, and I'm like, that's an interesting name for a book. I did not read the premise or anything like that to see what it was about. The title was kind of intriguing. If I want something different and off the wall, maybe Melancholy Elephants is something I need to read. What do you guys think? Would you read Melancholy Elephants? It's an interesting title. Here's another one by David Wong, and that is John Dies at the End. Now, I have heard quite a bit about this when I've seen some different book reviews for it. A lot of people seem to like it. And, you've got a spoiler right off the bat in the title because you're assuming whoever John is, they're going to die at the end of the book. So that makes it just kind of a weird title to begin with. But it works. It definitely makes the book intriguing, right? I don't know if I'll read this book. Maybe I will one day, but it's a different title for sure. Now, here's one that always threw me until I read the book, and that is The Three-Body Problem by Cixin. The first time I saw this book, the cover really grabbed me right away. I loved the cover, but I'm like, what the heck is the three-body problem? So I have to be honest, I looked up, I had to look up and see what the three-body problem was because I knew this was a science fiction novel, so I'm like, okay, what in the world is this? So apparently, it is a theoretical problem within astrophysics and quantum physics. I'm not going to try and explain it here. It goes way over my head as far as that concept goes. I would not do it justice. I can't remember most of it. So after I saw that, I'm like, oh, okay, well, so this book must be delving into some aspect of that in a fictional way. I really enjoyed The Three-Body Problem. It's got a lot of mixed reviews because it doesn't work for everybody, but I feel like it worked for me, even though it was very concept-driven. And I do plan to read the other two books. But you gotta be honest, Three-Body Problem is a weird title if you're a reader that doesn't really know anything about that. Like, I didn't know anything about that until I read about it. I don't know if everybody finds it a weird title, but I did. The next one on my list is That Time My Wife Turned Me Into a Blueberry and Juiced Me by MW Plumpkins. I am not kidding, guys. This is a real book. I'll give you a picture of it right up here. I did not read the premise. And with most of these, I didn't read the premise. I just saw the title and I looked at the book cover, and like the book cover kind of goes along with the book title on this one, as you can see. And just because it's odd doesn't mean I'm going to read it, right? Just because it's intriguing and I'm curious what it's about doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to read it. But that one definitely takes the cake as one of the more off-the-wall titles on this list. All right, we're going to go to another one, and that is by Ray Bradbury. And that is I Sing the Body Electric. Now, I really like Ray Bradbury. I absolutely love Fahrenheit 451. I want to read some of his other books, like Something Wicked This Way Comes. I have heard of I Sing the Body Electric, but that's a weird title. It does make me want to know what in the world it's talking about. I'm sure the book title plays into something that's in the book. I don't know if it's like somebody singing is causing electricity waves to flow through somebody's body or what that refers to, but that's just yeah. I sit there and I look at it and I'm kind of shaking my head. I'm like, okay, I'm not sure what that means, but it's interesting. So, okay. Let's move on to the next one. This is a book by a guy named Tony Spencer, and it is Tea Shop Twinkle. I don't know. I have no idea what that might be referring to. I don't think I'll probably read this one, but that's a very interesting title. I can't even begin to think what that might refer to. Another book on this list is Plow the Bones by Douglas Warrick. And I have a feeling, maybe that's a horror novel. Maybe it's a book where they're digging up bones and trying to figure out who perpetrated some murders, and they're wanting to analyze the bones. Who knows? I have no idea. Again, I didn't look at the premise, but that's a very unique title for a book. Plow the Bones does intrigue me, and maybe it's one that I should check out and see what I think of it. I don't know. The next one on this list is How to Survive a Garden Gnome Attack by Chuck Sambuchino. Now that is an intriguing title. It's a weird title, right? Every time I see a book with gnomes in it, or like this one has a gnome in the title, I'm intrigued because, stuff like, I'm a huge fan of the movie Chicken Run. And I always remember that one scene in the movie where the chickens crawled up inside the little gnome statues and waltzes into the machine room, and the old man's like, "Gnomes!" It just brings to mind all these funny, quirky things. So if there's a garden gnome attack and I'm ever around that garden when the gnomes attack, I want to know how to survive it. I'm just saying that might be one that I would want to read. So you never know when you're going to get assaulted by crazy gnomes. I'm just saying. The last one on this list, and I saved the best for last, because this book title kind of makes sense. And I'm a cat owner and a cat lover, or I should say I'm owned by a cat, right? The cat is my master. I just work here. And Ari is not here, so I she's off in the house somewhere. But the book title is How to Tell If Your Cat is Plotting to Kill You by Matthew Inman. And that right there sounds like a book that I at least want to read and probably own, just because I am a cat lover, and figure out if my cat is actually plotting to kill me, because that would be good to know. I've seen memes on the internet where it shows different scenes of, if your cat is doing this is what they're plotting. Like if they're pawing at your chest, they're searching for weaknesses. You never know. You just never know. I want to be on my cat's good side, right? So I think I better read this book and figure out what I'm doing wrong, if I am doing anything wrong, so that my cat doesn't plot to kill me. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been a really fun video for me to research and a fun video for me to make. And if you are interested in any of these books, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to dialogue with you and find out what you're interested in. And are there some really weird titles of books that you have heard of that I did not have on my list? Maybe I haven't heard of them. Let me know those in the comments below as well. I would love to know some other books for me to look up and see if they're too weird to read or if they're intriguing to me. So yeah, let me know in the comments below. And until next time, guys, make sure you're reading more books. I will talk with you soon. And let me take this opportunity to thank my patrons. I really appreciate all you guys do to support my channel.